Hey everybody, today is July 23rd, 2020, and in this video we're going to be covering the death of former UConn basketball star Stanley Robinson, who passed away suddenly at the age of 32 a couple of days ago. This story being reported in the media today, July 23rd, 2 days after his death, which is going to be very important to this decode. In this video, we'll talk about how this man's death is related to the star Sirius, which is honored on July 23rd every day. What's also important about this passing away is that Stanley Robinson had the nickname of Styx, and we're going to talk about how this relates to the Styx River, which is part of Greek mythology, and also this moon named Styx, which was announced as the smallest moon of Pluto back on July 11th of 2012. All of these objects create this big web of interconnectivity, and let's jump right in. First of all, this nickname Styx, which is going to drive us through understanding the numerology of this ritual. Notice how his nickname has Jewish gematria of 302, and we will look at the alphabetic order shortly. But the 302 is important because in numerology, the 0 dropped, therefore this represents the number 32, the age at which he died. It's reported that Robinson passed away on July 21st, which was a date with a life lesson number of 32. Now, the 32nd prime number is 131, as shown here on the left side of your screen. And not only does Stanley Styx Robinson have this value, but so does the school that he attended, the University of Connecticut, 131 in the same cipher. Also in this method, the phrase ritual human sacrifice summing to 131. We'll look more at that a little bit as we go. But what I want to talk about is how this is related to the dog star Sirius. Notice how Sirius sums to 32 in standard reduction. The Latin name of the constellation is called Canis Majoris, which sums to 131 in ordinal. Again, the 32nd prime number. Now, Sirius is extremely significant to the dark occult. It's the brightest star in the sky by a magnitude of 2, I believe, over the second brightest. And it's part of the Canis Major constellation. And, of course, Canis Major being the dog constellation. So, based on this, Sirius is known as the dog star. And if you're going to start investigating the significance of any star, Sirius seems like a pretty good place to start. Now, last night, I was listening to the Gematria Effect on TFR Live, and Rambo was giving a decode, and I believe he mentioned Sirius and July 23rd. And as it turns out, every year on July 23rd, Freemasonry honors the heliacal rising of Sirius. I knew I was going to mispronounce that word the first time it came out of my mouth. Heliacal, I think is right. And there's a lot of information on this in Sirius related to the July 23rd, as this is the date that Sirius can first be seen rising in front of the sun. So it's visible for a short time before the sun rises. And this is, of course, only in certain parts of the world, but this is the date that's recognized for this. And I find it interesting that they credit the Dogon tribe with this. And here we're talking about the dog star, and here the Dogon tribe over in Mali. Interesting association there. I know this text is really small, but I have links in the description below. This page is included, explaining the significance of Sirius and July 23rd. I dropped a link for this page in there as well. Also, the Sothic cycle, which is a period of 1461 Egyptian civil years. And this is essentially aligning the Egyptian calendar with the Julian calendar based on the rising of Sirius. So this is all to illustrate how important Sirius is. And, again, it's called the Dog Star. And Stanley Robinson played basketball for the University of Connecticut Huskies. And, of course, a husky is a type of dog. Notice how Stanley Robinson was born in the same city that he passed away in, Birmingham, Alabama. I want to point out how Birmingham, Alabama has Jewish Gematria of 237, like the date of today's news story, the 23rd of July. But next I want to point out again how his nickname was Styx. And in Greek mythology, the Styx River forms a boundary between Earth and the underworld. Now, also in Greek mythology, the ruler of the underworld is Pluto, and that's going to be important to the next part of this. And this idea of rivers has been very significant lately. Think about the death of Naya Rivera, which I have a video on from last week. The name Naya Rivera, I find it interesting that her Wikipedia page seems to have been removed. I guess I spelled her name wrong. But Naya Rivera, this name sounds a lot like Nile River. And this lines up with her date of birth, January 12th, written 1/12. Using the standard 26-letter alphabetic order, Nile River sums to 112. And it was said that Naya Rivera drowned in a lake. Now, she died at the age of 33, and her death fell the same exact day as Fahim Saleh, another 33-year-old. This man was dismembered, and he was later found by his sister, which I guess they changed to his cousin. But I have another video on this guy because I wanted to point out that this was an Osirian ritual. Now, as the mythology teaches, Osiris was dismembered by his brother Set, with his remains being thrown into the Nile River. And again, this man died at 33, the same day Naya Rivera died at the age of 33. And what I didn't mention in that is that it's being said that his executive assistant is who dismembered him. And in the story of Osiris, it's his brother Set who dismembers him. So while it's not his brother in the movie, it was a close confidant. Strange that someone who knew him would dismember him, not just a random crime. Very bizarre. Bizarre until you understand the riddles that underlie these rituals. So now we're talking about the Styx River. Just 1 week later, we get the death of Stanley Robinson. Now, Stanley Robinson, you may notice, was born in the year 88. And in ordinal, Styx equals 88. Furthermore, Styx River has matching 160 and 52 Gematria with Stan Robinson. Now, believe it or not, this is actually numerically related to the band named Styx. It's two singers, Tommy Shaw and James Young. One of them is 3,488 weeks old. The other is 3,688 weeks old, both with that 88 in their age. Maybe a coincidence. But what's more important to this is the mythology. And again, as I mentioned early on in the video, Styx is also a moon. Back in 2012, July 11th to be exact, this moon was announced to the world. And this all makes sense. Styx, a river between Earth and the underworld. Pluto, the god of the underworld in Greek mythology. And now we get this moon that orbits Pluto. So if you measure from this July 11th, 2012 date to the death of Stanley Styx Robinson, you get 8 years and 10 days. This, in numerology, represents the number 81. The name Styx equals 81 in both English ordinal, and the reverse alphabetic order. Not only that, but if you look at the number of weeks with the end date, you get this interesting number of 419 weeks. Well, 419, check this out, it's the 81st prime number. So just like the name Styx has double gematria of 81, this measurement, from the announcement of the Styx moon to the death of Styx, has double 81 numerology. So again, we're talking about a moon of Pluto. And the moon is very significant to this ritual as well. Not just this moon, but our moon. And this all begins with the fact that Stanley Robinson was born on July 14th and then died on July 21st. Well, as you can see, both of these dates are within the time of Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. Measuring from his date of birth to the date he passed away was just about exactly 396 lunar phases. Now, 396 divided by 12 gives us 33. So this means he was almost exactly 33 lunar years old. And as I talk about almost in every video where we talk about death and murder by numbers, notice how the number 33 sums to 895, just like ritual human sacrifice. Now, what was also interesting about Robinson's death is that the media was initially reporting that he died on July 20th, and perhaps they determined he died later in his sleep or something. Not quite sure why they changed it, but July 20th, recall, that was the anniversary of the first ever moon landing. And perhaps it's related as well, because although man first landed on the moon, allegedly, on July 20th, they did not actually walk on the moon until July 21st. So both of these dates are significant. Now, measuring from the date of the moon landing to the date July 20th this year was exactly 51 years. And not only does moon equal 51 in the reverse alphabetic order, but so does Pluto. And again, Stanley Robinson played for UConn, which means he was a Husky. And Husky also has this value of 51. In fact, so does UConn Huskies. 51 in reduction. So now it's being reported that he died on the 21st. And that stands out. Of course, the moon landing was on the 201st day of the year. Furthermore, Stanley Robinson wore the number 21. The word moon also equals 21 in reduction. So does the planet Pluto. This man was a Husky, which also sums to 21. And notice how his death fell exactly 21 weeks before the next total solar eclipse. And he died on a Monday, which is named after the moon. Now, we need to talk more about how this is related to this year's total solar eclipse. And this year's eclipse is a big one. If you're not already familiar with the twin eclipses, here they are. One of them occurring in 2017, the second total solar eclipse completing the X over the middle of the United States in 2024. And again, if you're new to the channel, I explained that this is why we're getting the coronavirus pandemic this year. This year is the midway point between these two eclipses. The corona of the sun is the only part of the sun that's visible during a total solar eclipse. Now, in the alphabetic order, total solar eclipse equals 202. And here we are in the year 2020, a year with 22 numerology. And exactly halfway between these two eclipses, there's another total solar eclipse which occurs this year on December 14th of 2020. And here again, remember, 202, like the value of total solar eclipse. The name Stanley Robinson also sums to 202 in the alphabetic order. And the date he died, July 21st, that's usually the 202nd day of the year. This year, the 202nd day of the year was the anniversary of the moon landing. And what I couldn't believe when I was perusing this guy's Wikipedia page, and maybe this was on his, I think this was in the CNN article, they pointed out how Robinson scored 1,231 points during his college career in 4 years. Well, 1,231 is the 202nd prime number, matching his name gematria and a total solar eclipse. Also notice how Stanley Robinson and a total solar eclipse equals 67. This year, the date of the moon landing had 67 numerology. And we talked about how this is related to the dog star, Sirius. Sirius sums to 67 in the reverse alphabetic order. What about the name that's on his uniform, UConn? Check out how UConn equals 67 in ordinal. UConn also equals 22, like the numerology of 202. Also basketball 22. And I believe CNN first published news of his death on the 22nd, which is shown up here in the address bar. But again, you know, although it's published on the 22nd, it makes headlines on the 23rd because today is when they honor Sirius, the dog star. 67 also, blood sacrifice, human sacrifice. And as far as Stanley Robinson, he's also got the 86. Now, what I also want to bring attention to is the reverse gematria of 203. That's because total lunar eclipse equals 203 in the alphabetic order. Now, in reduction, total lunar eclipse equals 68. The date of his death had primary numerology of 68. 68, another number associated with basketball, 68 reverse reduction. In reverse ordinal, UConn equals 68. Sorry if I started going fast, but this stuff just flows pretty simply. It's also worth noting that although Stanley Robinson never played in the NBA, he was drafted in the year 2010. Well, interesting, another 21. Anyway, it was by the Orlando Magic. And notice how Orlando Magic also have the 68. Today's headlines, or I'm sorry, I wrote this incorrectly. Oh yeah, no, I did write this correctly. So news of his death, making headlines on the 23rd, Stanley Robinson 203. And the date he died was the 203rd day of the year. Now, as far as this lunar eclipse ritual, or riddle, I should say more accurately, measuring from the date of his death to the next total lunar eclipse is 310 days. And I think this is related to University of Connecticut, which equals 310. In fact, Connecticut equals 127, which is the 31st prime number. For another connection to that, notice how University of Connecticut also is 311. Well, the anniversary of the moon landing was 311 days before the next total lunar eclipse. So this decode to me, it seems pretty smooth. I understand, we're talking about the numbers 21, 22, and 23, but all of them are extremely relevant in virtually every part of this riddle. It's quite incredible. The last thing I want to share about the gematria of Stan Robinson is how it sums to 52 and 74. And the entire his entire professional career was in South America, which is 52 and 74. Also, notice how South America has gematria of 577, the 106th prime. 106, the value of Robinson in ordinal. Clearly, though, this is all about Styx. The moon Styx, the Styx River, the planet Pluto, the announcement of the moon Styx. Telling you guys, the astrology element really brings this all together, doesn't it? It's pretty incredible stuff, and glad to be sharing with you. And again, special shout out to Rambo of Gematria Effect News, and Bobby as well, who's been a little slow on the content, but has been helping a lot behind the scenes. And big congratulations to Bobby on his big news today as well. So, yeah, that'll do it for this video. I think that covers everything. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Peace, love, God bless, and we will catch you on the flip side. Happy birthday, Mom. See ya.